What is good, my fellow gangsters? It is your fellow Muffin Knight 23. There are a lot of things messed up in the world. Like how you heard of this thing on the internet called misinformation. Shit's fucked up, yo. A wise man named Freddy Fazbear was the first one to spread misinformation on the World Wide Web. Isn't that crazy? Like, why would you do that? How is Freddy Fazbear the bad guy? Recently, I have been having what doctors would call a Freddy Fazbear's scare. It's when I have long stretches of fear inspired by Frederick Fazbear. Yeah, that Freddy Fazbear. They were going to lock me up and put me in a padded room, but that would be rather mean, would it not be? Why would they do that? I'm just out here living my best life, and they're trying to lock me up, because I got a little scared of Freddy Fazbear again. I think this is why, as a 90th percentile IQ enjoyer, we should mandate Freddy Fazbear education server-wide. You see, I'm saying server-wide, not worldwide, because I want you all to know that I'm a gamer. I play video games. Please don't let the greater nation notice, however. Some of them look down on video games, such as Overwatch 2, who would play that game. I only play good games, like Overwatch 2.4. The new character Bill Murray, I think all might be a little busted, not gonna lie. You know, I think we have enough strong ultimates similar to his, such as Freddy Fazbear. But to be fair, Freddy Fazbear's ultimate is very hype when he says, "It's Fredding time," and then he Freddy Fazbear's all over them. That shit got me tight. That got me through high school. Back in high school, they actually called me Basher, because I bashed kids' heads into lockers. Now they call me the Slasher. Some think it's a downgrade, but it's a side grade. The hierarchy goes Basher, Slasher, Thrasher, and I actually don't know. I need to look at the graph. Please don't laugh at me for being uneducated. I've been too busy studying for my tests. If you couldn't tell, I like Freddy Fazbear. Did you know that by 2060 we predicted to run out of nitrogen? Is that wild? To think that if we could not have these pressing issues, like Freddy Fazbear's would not let this happen. Think about how many lives Freddy Fazbear's altered just by not being present in the nitrogen cycle. We were all told that a large, mysterious brown singing bear would be present at our birthday party in carbon cycle. I told my crush that he would be at my birthday party, but when I started at my birthday party, there was no Freddy Fazbear's. I was so sad. How could you? Gonna promise a girl Freddy Fazbear's, and then you give me Cheapy the Cheapskate. For all my uneducated people out there, as a reference to SpongeBob SquarePants, a little niche underground indie show. I've recently been partaking in a show titled Smiling Friends. I've seen their advertising is somewhat false, as everyone in the show was often not smiling. My favorite character is Mr. Boss, because he reminds me of Freddy Fazbear. I'm curious if he gave anyone else that impression, because he has voice acted by the same person and carries a very similar demeanor too. However, I'll go on a record to say he more so it fits the style of Bonnie the Bunny, who, as we all know, will be played by Matthew Patrick in the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie, coming to theaters December 5. Isn't that crazy? Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie, is on December 5. That's at least 18 days before Christmas. Maybe I can convince my wife to let me catch Santa Claus this year. I take her to go see the Freddy Fazbear's movie. Do we think that William Afton was the bad guy? Like, think about what he did. Like, I'm sure with enough cope he could rationalize. You know, like, I really think we're not looking at the story from both sides. And you know, as a journalist, it is my job to report only facts, so I think we should. I think we should refrain from calling William Afton the purple guy, and maybe like to other people as they might be the true purple guy. Like, have you seen Pim from Smiling Friends? That guy is pretty purple. But then again, I have been known to be very colorblind. For me, Freddy Fazbear is often not brown, but he is blue and he wields a knife, similar to my favorite character, Jeffrey the Killer. Please do not confuse him with Jeff the Killer. If you do, I will be very sad. You see, they're very different, because Jeff the Killer was a Mr. Beast fan, while Jeffrey the Killer was only a fan of Markiplier because he played Five Nights at Freddy's. Is that kind of crazy how one small change can change an entire life? Like, my life got infinitely better once I was introduced to Freddy Fazbear, which again, why we should mandate Freddy Fazbear into the cool kids' education. Am I right, lads? Or am I right, lads? That was a reference to Undertale, if it was realistic, by Underground in the studio, that also may or may not have made Smiling Friends. We are not sure. Did you know that Freddy Fazbear is supposed to have a cameo on Smiling Friends? You also know that Smiling Friends is in the same universe as Squid Games. Squid Games are very scary. Why would they let the guy in the mask do that? They do know those are not Nerf guns, correct? Like Pim from Smiling Friends would not let that shit fly. Speaking of flying, I went on a flight to Djibouti the other day. I went there to go see my great uncle. My great uncle is my favorite person in the world. He was the only one who stuck with me through my Fazbear freights. But in Djibouti, I met Mr. Scott Cawthon, creator of the Five Nights at Freddy's series. And I asked him how he came up with ideas for characters like Chica the chicken, Bonnie the bunny, Freddy Fazbear the bear, and Foxy the pirate. And he said that they all came to him in a dream. Bullshit. We all know who signed a pact with Satan, and we all know Satan is an anagram for Five Nights at Freddy's. Did you know that Satan spelled backwards is Scott Cawthon? No, I made that shit up. You can't believe everything you see on the internet. The internet was created in your Djibouti. That's why the internet is approximately 34% Freddy Fazbear. I went to a concert the other day. It was a concert by an underground artist known as Nirvana, although he's pretty niche and underground. He's a very good singer. His songs is very innovative and delving to deep topics such as morality, what is good and evil, and what is has been hotel. Like, have you seen her without her? That is scary. Personally, I don't like hotels. Last time I was in a hotel, something very bad happened, but it's too traumatic for me to talk about. If I talk about the hotel, people would be very scared. Okay, if I tell you, promise you won't tell Mom. If Mom I was talking about this, she would put me in timeout. Okay, fine. At a hotel last time I was at a hotel, there was a car crash. It was on the floor. There was no crash. It was all orchestrated by big car crash to sell more car crashes. My mommy told me to stop talking about conspiracies like this, but I cannot overlook such facts. He must have been listening to Has Been Hotel, but please meet my next theory. 12 days after the 29th anniversary of 9/11, Frank Sinatra was holding a concert at Times Square, and we have an idea what happens when he performs there. He called upon the power of William Afton. Please do not kill William Afton. We are pending investigation on whether or not he is the purple guy. Anyway, William Afton was there on the day of the crime, and we has to suspect that he is responsible for 9/11 when the trains hit the towers. It was bad. I know that's controversial, but I think terrorism is pretty bad. Now again, as my great uncle from Djibouti would have wanted me to say, we are pressing investigation into William Afton and Freddy Fazbear. So far, the leading suspect is Chica the chicken. She has no alibi now. I know that this is a scary topic, but I believe you are all old enough to handle it. We're all being fed misinformation every day. They tried convincing me the other day that Santa isn't real, like, excuse me? Santa Claus is obviously real. If he wasn't, who would put presents under the tree? Exactly. So please do not try and run me over with your false arguments, because parents aren't even real. They can't put presents under the tree because they're not real. And so by that logic, Santa has to be real because someone is putting presents under that tree, and it is Santa Claus. Although, to be frank, I'm not sure if Santa Claus, more commonly known as Nicholas Claus, is not a real person. He could be a hit underground, niche character, the incredible Gassy. This character is very scary. I know that talking about Santa Claus and the incredible legacy back-to-back is a lot for a lot of people, but we need some way to weed out the weak from the strong in Pretoria. Peter Griffin would not have allowed this sacrilege. What would Muffin Knight 42 if he was still here? He would be ashamed of the weakness in the world. He would demand the worst for humanity, and honestly, I can't disagree with him. Have you ever had spaghetti? Spaghetti is good with the sauce and the meatballs made by Mario from the Mario Bros. Franchise run by Mario Miyamoto. Isn't it kind of crazy how Mario has a monopoly on the name of Mario? Like, I bet none of you stop to think that Mario could be a girl. Yeah, anytime any of you hear Mario, you think of Mario from Mario, but Mario could be a girl, and I know this is very controversial, but I think people should have rights, including Mario. In Djibouti, Mario has rights. Maybe we should move to Djibouti. I think Djibouti has it down. Anyways, my fellow gangsters, that's all for today's episode. Have a good one, my fellow gangsters.